Superhero Shrink Alpha by Jackson Allen. Read by Jeremiah Jones, Gloria Rowe, and Tim Rowe. Thanks for joining us. Jackson Allen writes science fiction stories and I'm a voice actor. Quick housekeeping notes before we get started. Please take a moment to like and subscribe so you can hear when we put out new stories. You can purchase an ebook copy of Superhero Shrink Alpha at inkican.com/emergency reality shelter. If you'd like to hire us for voice acting, my Instagram handle is Jeremiah Jones VO. Gloria Rowe can be contacted at gloria.rowe@live.com, and Tim can be contacted at timothyrowe@gmail.com. Now that we've got that out of the way, sit back, relax, and enjoy Superhero Shrink Alpha.
Admit it. I'm the weirdest patient you've ever seen.
It's a rainy Thursday afternoon. Bill Clinton is in my office, and the former president is down in the dumps. You aren't even the weirdest person I've seen today, Bill. How did it start?
I don't want to talk about that.
You don't have to, of course. But don't you think you should? I checked my notes. Bill Lucas, 53, resident of Georgia,
ex-resident of Georgia. Sleeping on my brother's couch in Panama City right now.
Unemployed.
Have you tried working when you got this face?
Bill gestures at his tired, famous features.
Can't work at a Walmart? They spit on you. I can't even shop at Dollar General. It's terrible.
I can imagine.
No, you can't. People want selfies. I tried charging $5 a shot, but somebody kicked me in the shin.
Oh dear. Bill Lucas straightened up.
I was just trying to make extra money to pay for car repairs. How is that a crime?
Well, let's talk about how it happened, I said. You got the call as an adult, a shape-shifting superhero.
Right.
Things were going okay for a while.
Sure. Some cool rescues, undercover operations. I had to impersonate a gangster. Got to be the godfather for a week. Someday, and that day may never come, I will call upon you to do a service for me. But until that day, consider this justice a gift on my daughter's wedding day.
Doesn't work as Bill Clinton.
Tell me about it. Shape-shifting has some weird challenges. It killed my marriage. She was always asking me to be someone else. John Stamos, Harrison Ford. She wasn't in love with me anymore.
That's when things started to go bad.
Right. So there I was. My podcast show guest was Dustin Diamond. He canceled on me.
I know that name.
Screech from Saved by the Bell?
Oh, right.
I was out of options, so I did the entire show as myself and Dustin. It was foolproof.
He died years ago. You've been doing this for a while, haven't you?
Sure. Nobody cared when I did D-list celebrities.
But then you graduated to bigger names. The lawyers came calling. The union smelled trouble. Dr. Xanthic performed one of his superhero downgrade operations.
My show ended. My fans canceled me.
Bill's shoulders slump.
Sometimes you commit a misdemeanor and it turns into a capital crime.
Let's look at this crisis as an opportunity. I tell my patient. The union can't keep your powers from you forever. You'll be back in the game.
But I'm Bill Clinton now. I don't even like politics. How'd you like it? Monica Lewinsky jokes and MAGA hats every dang day?
Like I said, crisis can be an opportunity. What are you learning from this?
Other than, don't pretend to be Bill Clinton?
That's a start. What's the bright side of this?
At least I don't look like Hitler or Alex Jones.
Sure, keep going. What would you tell other shape-shifting superheroes?
That's a good question.
Our session finishes and I get a phone call that sends my heart into my mouth. 10 minutes after that, I'm on my way to Prison Alpha, the superhero safety complex. This is where the rest of the story happens. The local Dunkin' Donuts coffee was too hot and too sweet, but I needed caffeine. A last-second meeting with the union at Prison Alpha. What did they want? Did they know? I've been sweating the past month after the conference. Jessica and her nosy secrets. Work is 100% private. What if the union finds out? Could I protect my daughter? There was no one to ask, so I focused on my work instead. Let's review the facts, I told myself. A month of sessions with Night Angel and marriage therapy with Mr. and Mrs. X. Still no progress, but at least I'm giving them a place to vent. That's healthier than not doing anything at all. Dr. Xanthic called me direct. Mortimer Cheever will meet me there. We're to consult on a couple of important cases before the Superheroes Union. Traffic is murder on the expressway. People forget how to drive in the rain. For a brief second, I wish I had wings like Night Angel. You're assessing trust fund. See if he's sane enough for trial, Dr. Xanthic told me. I blinked. He calls himself Trust Fund? Nah, that's the name we're giving him. Thinks of himself as a billionaire playboy. His entire case history reads like a cheap novel. I'm trying to figure out if he's evil or crazy? Dr. Xanthic sighed. Yeah, I know you don't like to use that word. Union's pretty upset about him, but that's not half as bad as the second case. Why? What's wrong with the second one? You'll see when you get here. I flip on the stereo and cringe. Dr. Tammy's doing the rounds with all your favorite podcasters. This time she's mixing it up with that dude bro guy, the Jordan Peterson type with more tattoos than sense. They're arguing about the morality of superhero therapy. I'm just asking questions, dude bro is saying. Isn't it possible that superheroes are actually fine? It's just us that need therapy?
It's a common misconception that superheroes are perfect.
No, I'm not saying perfect. You're putting words in my...
Let's be honest with ourselves. Superheroes are a different phenotype from humans, Homo praepositus, and that transition can be emotionally and mentally stressful.
Dude bro leaps on her logic to throw Tammy's words back in her face. So if we're different life forms, why are we using Homo sapien language to define a Homo praepositus? I waffle between laughter and despair, listening to the debate. Good for dude bro. Tammy needs to listen to the words coming out of her own mouth sometimes. Bad for us. Dude bro's audience, like him, thinks that being contrarian is the same as being in control. Shut off the stereo and drive, you fool. Prison Alpha is 4 hours away. The debate about putting a superhero jail next to the federal prison in Terre Haute raged for 20 years, coincidentally the same length of time needed to approve the design. How do you imprison a superhero? Don't ask me, because I don't want to know. They figured a way. Top secret technologies under miles of classification deployed to keep the bad supers under control. Nation-state actors constantly attacking to learn the secret sauce. Mortimer flies in from New Orleans, a private jet to the Indiana Air Guard Strip. Then we're escorted through a mile of maze-like concrete tunnels to an elevator. A door shuts, and the elevator starts to descend. We're going down. Very, very far down.
Cheaper if you built this thing in a mine,
Mortimer comments as we descend.
or an old missile silo.
Something about the soil components, I said. That's all I know.
You know,
My colleague peers at me.
or just saying.
Just saying. I still don't know how they do it. I pray I never find out. Last thing I need is to make myself more of a target than I already am. Your guess is as good as mine. Darn it, Jessica. The door opens and we're in the guardhouse, a standard business hallway. Is the only visitor access. Musty, dusty odors. Steel-reinforced concrete surrounds us, and then it's 1,000 feet of shale, sandstone, and limestone. Sound falls to the floor, no echoes. 2 elevator shafts, one for us and one for official use. We descend again. Prison Alpha is so deep in the Indiana geology that they discovered 2 separate dinosaur fossils during construction. One of them is in the Natural History Museum in New York. The other is next to us at the check-in desk.
I didn't think there were any dinosaurs in Indiana.
Mortimer handed over his ID, glancing at the small trilobite fossil. We didn't think so either, till we started digging. Got the files on this guy? Right here. The prison Alpha guard hands us a thick wad of paper and folders. He is a super too, skinny like Eco Knight, but with a ninja's calm precision and cold killer eyes. Go through the doors after you hear the buzzer. The door opened, and Belong stood there. Wait, are you here? Are you actually here? I asked, looking around. My union rep usually manifested as a psychological projection. I'm here this time. Belong's voice was strained, taking all I got to keep this kid under control. I hope you can figure out what to do with him. I looked at Dr. Cheever. Maybe we should take the second case first.
No. You need to be briefed first,
Belong answered.
I've got him thinking he's trapped in the dream zone. It'll take time to get him out of that. Few hours at least. First case is the easiest. Get him off our plate and back to the feds.
Fine. I sit down at a table and begin to read about Trust Fund, trying to connect the case file with what I already knew about him. Family's a household name. He inherited billions at the age of 22. Now he's 30 and looking to make his mark on the world. What did CB want? And what did it have to do with the supers?
Stings in the tail.
Mortimer muttered. They call it Friday Night Poker, a long-standing card game that was more like the CIA on steroids. Murder, selective assassination, sabotage of companies like Amazon and Apple. What was driving him? Someone gave us a tablet and a video to watch. Trust Fund's visual manifesto. Do you see the pain? His weak, timid eyes are a strange contrast to chiseled good looks, perfectly styled hair. His tailored suit, the elegant living room with background Steinway, attempt to communicate power because that's what he's been told power looks like. Do you see how they suffer? It has to start somewhere. It has to start sometime. What better place than here? What better time than now?
Oh, ye gods.
Mortimer murmurs, and I shushed him. If we really want to make a difference, Trust Fund continues, we have to fight the real enemies of the world. Every movie, superhero roughs up some bad guys or kids on a subway to fight crime. That's not real crime. Those aren't the real bad guys. I've lived with real evil, the 1%. The American oligarchs, cartels. You think you know how bad they are, and then you meet them. True sociopaths, narcissistic sociopaths. They think they do own the world. They kill millions with their greed, and no one can stop them. Or so they think. He held up a finger. Our plan is simple. One man, one bullet can change the world. We know who they are, and we know where they are. Start small and easy. Friday Night Poker was phase 1. Once we had a proof of concept, we moved on to phase 2 and 3. Mortimer pauses the video.
Loves to hear himself talk, don't it?
That'll come in handy when we interview. I took notes. FNP, phase 2, and 3. Cartels?
I could diagnose this guy right here. 4 or 5 different personality disorders.
Mortimer says. Yeah, but is he sane?
$1 million question. You want to keep watching or start talking?
Let's see what else we learn. The tablet's glass and metal feel cold and greasy as I unpause the video. We do the Friday Night Poker game. Perfect cover for our operative. Select 3 or 4 specific gang leaders, build a plan, and boom, 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 it's over in a couple of hours. Wake up the next day to chaos in the news. Of course, if you're killing the bad guys on one side, you need to kill the bad guys on the other. We'll focus on people like CEOs, lieutenants in the narco cartels, toxic media personalities in phase 2. Phase 3. We'll go after the state actors, and that includes the narco states. Phase 4, we go after the supers. Time to stop the video. I was getting nauseous. Okay, I've heard enough. Mortimer looks at me.
Personality disorders, right?
Sure, of course. But you're crazy if you think this guy lacks substantial capacity to appreciate the criminality of conduct or to conform conduct to the requirements of the law.
He's the reason for those border riots.
Corporate security's quadrupled in the past 6 months, I add. We've all read the news. Recent waves of violence south of the border, massive insurrections in Mexico, shootouts in San Ysidro, Nogales, and El Paso. I rub my eyes, trying to process. One guy's responsible for this mess? Mortimer holds up his MMPI, the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory, results.
I've seen these numbers before. He's trying for a not guilty by reason of insanity. But he doesn't get there. He knows what he's doing. Going after the supers. Now I know why he's in here.
He'd be dead anywhere else. I look across the table at Dr. Cheever. You realize, if we say he goes outside, we'd be responsible for his untimely demise.
Not our call.
Mortimer signals to the guard.
Let's get this over with.
Trust Fund's perfectly styled hair is now a thatched haystack. No Savile suits in Alpha. He's wearing dirty yellow scrubs and a 3-day beard. I almost feel sorry for the guy, making his moist, fearful eyes look fierce. Sees himself as a political prisoner. Now it's time for him to give his big speech. Nice of you to join me, he declares as the door clanks shut. Please, sit. This is good cop, bad cop, right? Which one of you's the bad cop?
Both of us.
Mortimer answers.
They had no good cops on duty today.
Cops aren't here to protect the public. They protect the status quo. I know you're here to perform for the cameras. I know the story they've told you. Now it's time for you to hear my story, if you dare. Mortimer shoots me a look, then nods.
Sure. Go for it.
For over 100 years, people have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. And yet, those repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. These rulers...
Of which your family is one of them.
Shut up, I'm getting to that. Trust Fund took a breath to gather his thoughts. Every act of these rulers defines a tyrant. They are unfit to lead a free people. They have been warned. We have appealed to their native justice, but those calls for justice have fallen on deaf ears. It will not be among the grassroots that the first shots are fired. The common folks find themselves firmly under the boot of oppression, first by money, then by violence, and finally by supernatural power. It was my choice, my calling, my destiny, to free them even at the cost of my personal freedom. Dr. Cheever holds up a meaty palm.
Stop. I've heard enough. This is in your manifesto. We've read it.
Then you know what you must do, Trust Fund answered. My first team is deployed. The plan is working. To join our cause, you must persuade the captors to keep me here until the appointed time.
What do you mean the plan is working?
Chaos in the streets. The CEOs are in hiding. Cartels are looking over their shoulder.
You just don't get it. Cartels aren't looking over their shoulder. They're looking for you. Or rather, they're looking for a way to get in here, make a very messy example out of you.
I nodded, adding, now the supers are dealing with 1,000 insurrection cells instead of the usual 10 or 20. The supers, the cartels, the 1%, they walk this world under the childish delusion that they can exploit, control, and murder us. They put that naive theory into operation. Now they will reap the whirlwind.
Is everything you say out of a book, or do you have any original thoughts on this topic? So far, you've quoted the Declaration of Independence and Arthur Travers Harris. When are you going to tell us what you think, personally?
You know what I think? I care about people. This is the way, the only way, to help them. I blinked. Murder? Don't hate the player, hate the game. 170 will die today from insurance denial of care. The Nazis had a name for that. Desk murderer. Those people are every bit as guilty as Adolf Eichmann. How do we bring them to justice?
Murder's still illegal in this country.
When you make peaceful accountability impossible, you make violent retribution inevitable.
Oh, cool. You stole that line from JFK. You were a member of the 1% since you were born. Now you're sitting in judgment?
They judge themselves by any rational measure. It's murder. They won't change until someone forces them. No one else is in a position to do it. Now we get why they call you Trust Fund. I have a name. Robert. Sure, I continued. Grew up watching superhero movies. You said, hey, why not? Robert looked down his nose at me, showing actual emotions for the first time. It's more than that.
But you also know how regular folk can pretend to be superheroes. Why didn't you go into politics?
They're part of the same system. You can't fix this from the inside. Interesting. I take notes. This guy is a true believer. Where most stick to protest and comment level activism, he took it to active measures, creating his own version of Murder, Inc.
You know this will never work.
Not with that attitude. Trust Fund puffs out his chest. I do things differently. Superhero walks around fighting old-school mafia guys and cartoon villains. Those aren't the real enemies. Sometimes, the only guy who can succeed is a guy like Dirty Harry.
Pure boomer justice fantasy. Dirty Harry and Superhero are the Hollywood version of criminal justice.
Mortimer leaned forward.
Not real. Go join a police force. Be an EMT or a social worker. The problem is that you don't want to help unless you can be in charge.
I couldn't sit back and watch.
You spent your entire life sitting back and watching. I have it right here. Phillips Exeter for prep, Harvard for college, and an MBA at Stanford. You spent your first 10 years running one of your daddy's companies.
That's where I learned that you couldn't fix it from the inside.
And they couldn't fix you either. Remember those lawsuits, those criminal complaints?
How do you know about them? They were supposed to be expunged. Everything is knowable to the supers, I answered. Don't you know that by now? That's inadmissible in court.
Aren't you adorable, thinking the rules apply to you?
Mortimer swatted Robert in the face with his case file.
The only rule that applies right now is he who has the gold makes the rules. The only thing keeping you alive right now is the supers you tried to kill.
Robert straightened up, looking afraid for the first time. I just wanted to help, you know. Make things better.
Plenty of people can pull a trigger. You're a white-collar Charles Manson getting people to kill for you. Doesn't make you a hero. It means you misunderstood the assignment.
So what is the assignment?
You'll have 30 to life to figure that out. And if you're very lucky, you'll live long enough to serve those 30 years.
What do you mean?
I mean you're a dead man walking. Every minute of your life might be the last from now on. I need to get away from you. God help me if I'm standing next to you when it happens.
Wait a minute. Aren't you going to help me? There's nothing we can do, I said. Sorry, we're just doctors. We can't fix everything. You can't let this happen. Mortimer waved off Robert's pleas.
I've heard enough. There's nothing here to recommend mental illness. Are you coming, Dr. Christopher?
Robert pitched his voice, trying to sound tough. Look, I'm obviously getting nowhere with you. I want to speak to someone in charge. We're the highest authority when it comes to your mental illness. I want to speak to the manager. He said it. He actually said it. Mortimer turned around, looking at Robert for the last time.
These guys are supers. You don't talk to their manager. They are the managers.
You can't do this. I have rights.
That includes the right to remain silent. I wish you'd use it.
He was yelling when the door slammed behind us. B-Long leaned against the guard desk, smiling.
How did it go?
You already know he's sane.
Sure, but protocol.
Protocol includes wasting our time?
His family's rich. Lawyers love to check everything.
B-Long rubbed his eyes. Your assessments are legally admissible in court, I answered.
The union's afraid of this new lawyer. Makes Johnny Cochran look like Matlock. He's challenging everything we do. Doesn't take a mind reader to know he's coming for my assessments, if he hasn't already.
I still don't get how that works. How can you read a mind?
I don't. B-Long shrugged. All I can do is manipulate electrochemical processes at a molecular level.
Huh?
Exactly. Sounds boring, but I can get into the molecular level of electrochemical systems. First, I cured Grandma's diabetes.
But then you found a more useful outlet.
No mind reading involved. Neurotransmitter manipulation, translating all those little synapses into words and pictures. It's really boring to say, I play with your brain chemistry, so I read minds.
Sad to say, you didn't have much to read for Trust Fund.
Nope. Standard narcissistic personality disorder. Grandiose delusions. He's an idiot, but he's not mentally ill.
Mortimer looked up.
It's more than lawyers, isn't it?
Yeah. B-Long said. Everybody wants this guy. Corporate security, the cartels, even the CIA.
Why would the CIA want this loon?
Think about it. He's an access agent, right level of moral flexibility, keys to all the right doors. Guy like that is supposed to be a useful idiot. Instead, he slipped under the radar. 20 dead CEOs, dead narcos. That kind of destabilization is exactly what they're paid to prevent.
Belong slumped, and for the first time I could see his exhaustion.
We can handle trust fund. The other guy's keeping us up at night.
Another assessment?
Worse. He's a true believer. Got the call, but he's running away from it.
He's rejecting the call? Has that ever happened before?
Yes. Belong's voice was flat. Once. We can't afford to let it happen again.
No desk jobs for supers?
Not one this powerful. Look, just get him to accept his superpowers.
Accept his power? Mortimer and I looked at each other. That's it?
Hey, if it was easy, you wouldn't be here.
Belong nodded at a door on the far end of the hall.
He's in there. I'll wake him up in 5 minutes.
Prison Alpha took a page from Supermax facilities with no windows and no contact with the outside world. We find another young man with curly black hair yawning as he rises from a concrete slab bed. He blinks at us for a moment, then says with an Australian accent,
You're real people, right?
I look at Mortimer. Last we checked.
He gives me fake people, or sometimes isolation makes you hallucinate.
The young man stretched.
They do that, you know?
Your name's Peter, right? I asked. Evidently, you've got the keys to your cell in your pocket. You can leave any time.
It's not that simple.
Peter scratched his ribs.
Please tell us why it isn't,
Mortimer said.
Watch this.
Peter extended his hands. Lights flickered. The floor rumbled under our feet. This kid was about to tear apart the strongest prison on Earth, and he wasn't even breaking a sweat.
Hey, knock it off!
Belong banged on the door with an angry fist.
Don't make me put you under again.
No worries. I'm a good boy. Stay in my pen like Master says.
I felt a deep inner fear, the same kind I get with Belong. One person, so much power. Mortimer pounded on the side of his head. Peter's demonstration messed with his inner ear.
Know what I mean? I could leave, but what would happen? You're powerful.
Mortimer nodded.
I don't think I've ever met a super who could do that. Tell me how you got the call. Just another day in Bondi. Second year of uni. What's your major? Business, I suppose. Family's always wanted a businessman. Walking to the bus and then everything goes black.
You heard a voice, I said, repeating one of the common call experiences.
Nah, just, I don't know, a presence. It was giving me something. I had a job to do. When I came out of it, I was on top of Westfield Tower. Hate heights, so a bit of a shock.
Did they arrest you?
Nah, I flew down. Realised no such thing as time and space for me anymore. I could see every atom, every nanoparticle, multiverse transit, transmutation, led into gold. Richest certain said.
Peter snapped his fingers.
Like that. You're an interesting case then,
Mortimer said.
We often wondered what would happen if a human got the call.
Supers have contingency plans for it, I said. The Omega scenario.
Yeah, I saw it.
They showed it to you?
Nah, looked at it for myself. What's the big secret? Who knows what and why? Who are the real bad guys and good guys?
For the supers?
Everyone.
Peter blinked.
Naughty lads everywhere. Took me a bit to translate from Chinese and Russian to English, but found the time. Do they know? Might. Can't promise I made it out without scuffing the carpet.
Sounds like you already accepted the call. Why are you in here?
Simple enough. I had the chance to play with all that power, but the more I played with it, the worse things got. Took me eons of time to put things right. Once I was finished, I realised I didn't want it. I just want to be Peter again.
You were able to time travel?
If you want to call it that. I was able to travel to other universes, try things out, then come back to a place where Peter, me, was at my age and transmit that information. Infinite universes, infinite Peter. They aged out, but I'm still here.
You know it all, can do it all. I tugged at an earlobe, contemplating the possibilities. How long were you in there? How much time did it take?
Billions of years. An eternity. You got eternity in your mind?
Mortimer sat back.
Oh, wow.
I had to know the answer to this question, even though I sounded like a child. What's it like? Peter thought for a long time.
Beautiful. Peaceful. But also sad. No one on earth that understands how I feel. Lonely.
At least the supers would.
Oi, who's a superhuman with all the knowledge? You or me? Your man, Dr. X, he's miserable. I've done the rap with your man Belong out there. He's still got the mind-reading ability. So he knows how I think, and I know how he thinks.
What's that mean?
His line of thinking only flows in one direction. Control. Can't imagine a world outside of that.
So your power is a blessing and a curse? I asked, an uncomfortable thought occurring to me. If he knew about Belong, he knew about me, too. I can't tell if Peter was reading my thoughts, Belong style, or he saw the look on my face. He waved at me, casual.
No worries, mate. Not here to hassle you. What's he mean?
Mortimer asked me. Nothing, I answered, feeling sweat on my forehead. What have you learned now that you've had this experience? Why stay in here?
Travelling out there, I realised I could give myself anything I ever wanted. Except meaning. Meaning? Sure. When you have everything, you want to understand why you have it. You want to understand what it's for. Otherwise, you reach the end of the universe and find yourself staring back. All you want to know is this it? Is this all that I am?
Huh. I sat back, thinking. I've read enough science fiction to recognize existential thought when I saw it. We've always imagined these kinds of questions. Peter was facing them for real. You've reached the end of the universe.
Insofar that there's an end, sure.
What's out there?
The beginning. Intelligences, presences. No rubber rock creatures, if that's what you mean. Why didn't you bring some of that back? Validate some theories, blow some minds. I've learned my lesson.
Peter shook his finger at us.
Last time I started playing with things, nearly triggered the heat death of the universe. Not going down that path again.
So now what?
Now we wait.
You could solve every problem humankind has ever experienced.
And believe me, I've tried.
So,
I'm telling you, the more I try to control it, the worse it got. Entire sections of the multiverse going dark in heat death. Billions, trillions of deaths. Absolute power, absolute control gets you absolute disaster.
Peter nodded at the door.
You know Chuck Norris, right? The kung fu guy? Yeah, great bloke. Met him too. Anyway, years ago, he was somewhere in the States eating lunch. Big guy comes up to his table and says, "You were in my seat." Now, here's Chuck Norris, world champion martial artist. He can take the guy apart in 2 seconds. You'd think he would, right? Defeat the bully.
But he didn't.
Nah, he just got up, moved to another table. That's not the end of the story.
So, what happened?
Little while later, the big guy comes up to Chuck's table and says, "You're Chuck Norris." Chuck says, "Yes." Guy says, "You could have taken me apart. Why didn't you?" Chuck answers, "What would it prove?"
Wow.
Exactly. Big guy says, "No hard feelings." And Chuck shakes his hand. He's made a friend.
That's amazing.
I know, but it proves my point. Values aren't values until they cost you something. Then there's that Rudyard Kipling poem, If.
What about it?
If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise.
That's a good one.
Yeah, met him. You met Rudyard Kipling?
Mortimer was impressed.
The guy who wrote the Jungle Book? Why?
Peter shrugged.
Met everyone else.
What do you mean, everyone?
Well, famous people. Queen Victoria, Sir Edmund Barton, Churchill, Gandhi. Worked my way down the list while I was waiting for other stuff to happen. Point is, they don't understand me or respect me. Until they do, until they figure out that I'm telling the truth, that I only use my powers for good.
Mortimer nodded.
You can't leave until they're ready for you to leave. Exactly.
I had questions. How long will it take? Doesn't it bother you to sit here?
Of course it does. Nails on a chalkboard every day. Whether it takes a day or a decade, the change can't come from me. It can only come from them.
Peter picked at his teeth.
I think that's what I was sent here to do.
Mortimer and I exited Peter's cell, our minds reeling at the implications. A single being with limitless ability, deliberately choosing not to use those abilities. What did that mean? How could he live with that self-imposed limitation? And what would I do if I were in Peter's shoes? Belong was tired, haggard.
How was your chat?
I sighed, saying, I assume you were listening.
Of course I was listening. We were all on Omega Alert. He was about to tear apart the prison.
No, he wasn't,
Mortimer said.
Guy was just showing us what he could do, what he was choosing not to do.
He's just playing with your mind. Peter's dangerous. He needs to accept his powers and learn to control them as we have.
He's got a lot more control than you realize.
Mortimer replied.
Just not the way you're thinking.
Fine, whatever.
Belong crossed his arms.
So what's the verdict? Do we let him go, or do we keep him here?
I looked at Mortimer and saw a look in his eyes. It took me everything I could to manage not to smile back. Belong would see. We need more time.
We've given him 6 months! I'm doing this every day!
Belong pulled at his hair.
Don't you understand how tired I am?
We're really sorry for you,
Mortimer replied.
I'm sure this is very hard for you.
Then give me an answer. Let us know what we should do.
Sorry, I shrugged. It doesn't work that way.
Of course it does. Belong snapped. Don't forget, you work for us. You work for me.
No, we don't.
Mortimer put a restraining hand on my chest.
We work for the Union under strict guidelines. One of them is that we're agents of the Union Board. 3 supers, 3 humans. No one can force us to act outside our professional capability. Not even you.
We're genuinely sorry that this is causing you distress, I added. The official answer is, we can't give an official answer yet.
The guards will be pissed.
We know.
He set all of the seismic sensors off.
We know that, too.
I'm really disappointed.
Belong stared at me.
I really thought you'd be smart about this.
Sometimes the right answers take time, I said. This isn't something you can think your way out of. You just have to feel it. Belong stared at the floor for a long time, swearing.
Okay, fine. You can go, but stay in touch.
Of course. My superhero union rep watched us enter the elevator, pressing the buttons for the surface. He reached out and held the door open.
I sometimes wonder why we supers put up with you.
I'm sure there are many humans who would say the same thing. I think Peter's got the right idea when he talks about figuring out what his purpose is. That's everyone's job.
Everyone's job to figure out their purpose? It's our job to protect everyone.
Mortimer cocked an eyebrow.
Is it?
You just don't get it. Belong answered. You'd make a terrible superhero.
I take it for the compliment that it is. Thank you. Thanks for listening. Once again, if you like what you hear, please take a moment to hit those like and subscribe buttons so you can hear when we put out new stories. You can purchase an ebook copy of Superhero Shrink Alpha at inkican.com/emergency reality shelter. If you'd like to hire us for voice acting, my Instagram handle is Jeremiah Jones VO. Gloria Rowe can be contacted at gloria.rowe@live.com, and Tim can be contacted at timothyrowe@gmail.com. We appreciate you joining us. We'll see you down the road.